Today's daily dose of math is about something I'm going to call fence probability. It's a probability question that involves a fence around a property. So what we have here is a square portion of the property and a semicircular portion. And there's a fence around the whole property as well as a fence separating the grass from the flowers, separating the square from the semicircle. A bird lands on the fence, randomly choosing its spot. What is the probability that it lands on the curved section, this section? Now, the reason I think it's necessary to have this lesson is that most of my students, when they get used to doing their probability questions involving geometry, will immediately start doing area formulas here. They get the question wrong, and the problem really is that they're not thinking very hard about what they're doing. Because, of course, the fence is the perimeter, not the area. So what we have to do is find the perimeter of the square and the perimeter of the semicircle, or half the circumference of the circle. And that gives us the numbers that we need in order to solve the problem and get the right answer. So what I've done is I've done the calculations ahead of time, and I'm going to start revealing them. The first thing we have to do is realize that if the side length of the square is 10 meters, that means half of that side length would be 5 meters. Since the semicircle is pressed against the square, that means the diameter of the circle is 10, and therefore the radius is going to be 5. So we know the radius of the circle is 5. Otherwise, everything has already been given, because giving the 10-meter side length of the square presents us with everything we need to know. So we do the circumference of a circle formula, which is c equals 2 pi r. We plug in our 5, we get our answer, which is approximately 31.4, but because it's a semicircle, we have to divide that by 2, and the perimeter of the semicircle, half the circumference, is 15.7 meters. The perimeter of the square is a little faster. It's 4 times the side length, so it's 4 times 10, it's 40 meters. Now we have the information we need so that we can answer our probability question. The favorable in this case is the bird landing on the curved section, and that has a perimeter of 15.7. The total is the bird landing on any of the top of the fence anywhere, and that has a perimeter of 40 plus 15.7. When we do our calculation, we end up with 0.2819 in decimal form, and then multiplying by 100, we get 28%, which is an approximation. I did a bit of rounding. So this is a fairly straightforward final answer to this question. But the key here is to deal with the student who tries to do area formulas and make that student slow down, see the bigger picture, and realize that in this case they needed to do perimeter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change colors of chalk, and I'm going to change my question so that it becomes an area question. That means it becomes what I like to call dartboard probability, because it works just like all the dartboard questions I ask, even though this isn't a dartboard. And that means it will be example 4, because I've already done 3 examples of dartboard probability that involves areas. Now we have to change the question, of course, because the bird's not landing on the fence anymore in this type of question. What happens is, instead of fence, it lands somewhere on the yard. And instead of the curved section, I'm going to change it so that it's grass section. Now we're dealing with the area situation. We no longer need these circumference perimeter formulas. We need area formulas. So the area of the square is side length squared. 10 squared, it's 100 meters squared. That's quick. And then the area of the circle is pi r squared. Remember, our radius is 5. It's still 5. So pi 5 squared gives me about 78.5, but I have to divide by 2 because it's not a circle, it's a semicircle. Therefore, I have an area of the flowers of 39.25 meters squared, and I can use those values in my probability calculation. Chance of landing on the grass is the area of the grass, which is 100, over the area of the total, which is 100 plus the 39.25. This gives us 0.7181 in decimal form, which when we multiply by 100 gives us about 72%. We have answered our dartboard probability question. Try to remember when you approach a geometry probability question that it doesn't have to always be about area. It could also be about perimeter. Step back and think about the way they're asking you the question, because all the clues you need to realize that you need to do this for the perimeter question and this for the area question are right there in the way the question is asked. That is today's Daily Dose of Math. Don't forget to like this video, and if you're not subscribed yet, click on the subscribe button.